Morning, everybody. I'd like to just start by acknowledging the other co-author, so to speak, Nakara. She helped me a great deal in putting this presentation together. Not only that, but she took over my role for the last 4 months while I was away on maternity leave, and she did a great job. She was supported by Gareth, and Gareth is also now joining us in WWF. So this is definitely teamwork. Just to sort of note that when I say catchment stewardship, we have been implementing two very specific tools, biodiversity stewardship and WWF's water balance program, but implementing those two things does not equal catchment stewardship. They are just two particular types of tools. There are many other tools that you can use towards achieving catchment stewardship objectives, and they all certainly have their place. I think what we found through this project is that these two tools are very time intensive, so they make a big difference to individual properties, but a few. It's not solving an entire catchment and thousands of hectares at once. That's just not the nature of this type of work. Very quickly, 3-year project. We got a 6-month extension. We into those last 6 months, or 6 to 8 months. So this is really reflecting on what we've been doing over the last sort of 2.5 years. For those of you in the room that are not from Natal, just to remind you where we're talking about, we basically have just entered the Upper Umgeni catchment where we're sitting here at Fernhill, because everything upstream of Midmar Dam, which you would have passed, is regarded as the Upper Umgeni catchment, and also the main stem of the Moy River, because water from the Moy system is pumped into the Umgeni for an interbasin transfer. And again, we like to acknowledge our out of Natal people, help you place where we are. There's Durban, Pietermaritzburg, and the red is the Upper Umgeni catchment, and the blue line being the Umgeni River. Then that's just zoomed in a little bit more for you, so you can see where we are. And that again is for those who like their geography. The Umgeni River is the main stem, starts here at the Umgeni Flay Nature Reserve, or many people regard that as the source, although it does come from about 3 different places on private land. And then we've got the Lions River, which is quite a major tributary of the Umgeni, and there's the Moy feeding Springgrove, and the Springgrove water being pumped into the Impelfaan, another tributary of the Umgeni. All right, so very simply, 2 main objectives. One, to increase the area under stewardship in this upper catchment. The target there was 1,000 to 2,000 hectares with 2 to 4 landowners. And secondly, to clear invasive species from important areas along the main stem of the Umgeni through the water balance program of WWF, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. That is actually funded by Nedbank, so that's co-funded, and the target there was to clear 104 condensed hectares, not just normal hectares. That equates to a lot more on the ground when you condense everything into 1 hectare. All right. So progress to date, we're very happy to say that Ivanhoe, a farm directly adjacent to Umgeni Flay Nature Reserve, they did set aside a good 800 hectares of land, went for Nature Reserve option. The intention to declare was published in the Government Gazette. We've gone through public participation, so it's as good as done. And the management plan now is just being reviewed by the landowner. And effectively that doubles the area under protection, because the Umgeni Flay Nature Reserve is also around 800 hectares, so you've got quite a nice doubling of protected area there. And then we have 3 other properties, they're all adjacent. Ended up going with biodiversity agreement for them. 2 of them did actually, they could have gone with a protected environment, but we just felt at the time we weren't too sure that capacity within the stewardship program was there to be able to service so many nature reserves coming through the system. Let's rather go with a biodiversity agreement, establish landowner trust, build those relationships, and you can always upgrade or increase that status with time. And those agreements have been drafted, and the in-principle agreement Then that basically gives us just 2,700 hectares, so at least we can tick that one box for CPF, for happy hectares, and fulfilled that objective. Just to show you these sort of property names, in case it will mean a bit more to you, that's Ivanhoe, so it's those two pieces of land that are now nature reserve. The yellow is areas that are being cleared with the water balance program, also on Ivanhoe land. And then Zavuya, Waycroft, Brigadoon and Old Firth, all along the main stem of the Umngeni with river frontage. And these are the other cluster of properties that we're working with, just at the base of Inhlazan. So Old Firth comes down the one side of Inhlazan mountain. Then water balance. This is a corporately funded alien clearing program, so different to your working for water government funded programs. And essentially it's regarded as a type of offset, very much inverted commas offset. It's a balancing of a company's water use, and it's equivalent to their operational water footprint. So what they use within the company, we get a figure for how many hectares therefore they need to clear to release more water back into the system to replenish what they are actually using as a water user. And we have prioritized stewardship properties and riparian areas because we really wanted the two to work together well, and we wanted to reward stewardship commitments. And this just to sort of give you the quick background. We have this 5-year investment from Nedbank coming to an end in April 2016. Fortunately, we have a good memorandum of understanding with Working for Water, so they've been supplying our herbicides. And then we have different models. Sometimes it's the landowner who becomes the implementer of the clearing work, if that's what he prefers, and essentially we pay him to clear on his own land, meaning the funding for the cost of that clearing is given to him, and he is contracted to clear on his own land, but keep to timelines, keep to the deliverables, so he's treated like a contractor, but he's working for himself. And then we have an implementing agent or contractor, an outside company who does the work for the landowner. And what's interesting in our context, we have found most landowners prefer to have an implementing agent come and do the work, just they don't have time, they don't have sufficient labour to dedicate team just to the clearing work. And in only one case, Old Firth, have we had a landowner who said he wanted to take on the work himself. But definitely pros and cons with those different models. That's very much what we've found. We commit to doing an initial clear and minimum of 2 follow-ups. Depending on when we started with the property, we might have been able to do 3 or 4 follow-ups, but minimum will be 2. And the landowner has to commit by means of a proper legal agreement that he will continue the follow-up. And then just quick summary of where we're at with that. Across those sort of 5-6 properties, but we would have cleared 142 hectares if all goes according to plan by the end of our timeframes for Nedbank. I think we're on track, but there's always a few curveballs that can be around the corner. And so what I wanted to say here was that we've basically overreached our target for CPF, and that was because we got some additional funding from Nedbank, enabled us to clear more hectares. Then, okay, it's getting a bit boring, I know, so let's just wake you all up a bit. I think that what I've shown, it's very sort of clinical, hectares, and for people who are not practitioners, you don't get a sense of what did it really take to get that. I mean, you might be thinking, 1, 2, 3, 4 properties, please. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Any person in stewardship would agree, and it's those twists and turns in the road that makes this work very interesting. So, when you see a smiley face on here, then you must go, yay. When you see a little sad face, you must go, okay? All right, have we got it? So I want to hear from you. So, yay or okay. Don't confuse the two. All right. So, once upon a time, there was a farm called Ivanhoe, directly adjacent to Umngeni Flat Nature Reserve. He was the typical farmer who is our champion, willing, doing it for the right reasons, and we got to double the area of protection around the headwaters. Yay! Then, after months and months of working on another property, multi-landowner site, a number of plot holders, all under a landowner association type system, we invested a lot of effort into that property. We got as far as drafting agreements for water balance, we've done fault condition assessments, we've done botanical inventories, we've put a lot into that property. They pulled out. Then it was starting to become a little bit hard to actually find properties that fulfilled our criteria for water balance, because we want to clear woody species, not necessarily bramble and bugweed, just for our water offsetting requirements, and we want them to be on the river, plus this property must have conservation value. So the number of suitable properties was getting harder and harder, and we were starting to wonder, let's go back. Yes, would we actually meet our targets? I mean, you basically say to someone, we've got alien clearing funding, we can clear aliens for you. How hard can it be to find suitable sites? But it was a little harder than we thought. Then, 2 properties that we'd also been working hard on for stewardship. The landowner gives you those lovely words. I have decided to put it on the market. Yeah, so you have to stop right there. You can't do anything more. If there's going to be a possible sale, you just need to wait. Then, uMngeni Nature Reserve receives Ramsar status. It gets international recognition now. The management plan gets redone to accommodate surrounding properties, to really look at a much more expanded, consolidated, protected area. This should pave the way for landowners being a lot more willing, don't you think? Yay! But just off the back of that, we have an illegal dam development. Not on the property that we've been working on a far away, in a totally different place, but brother of the landowner we're working with. And of course they talk, and every environmental organisation gets tarred with the same brush. So we had nothing to do with it. They were in the wrong, but of course stewardship is at fault. There's a lot more to it than that, but Then after about a year to implementation, finding the suitable properties, getting our agreements in place, contractors all ready, we could finally start clearing. But we had a fire that burnt through our area, literally like a week or 2 before the teams moved on to site. So that just means you can just imagine the amount of follow-up now we're going to have to do with little wattle seedlings going to be resprouting left, right and centre. And we then went on to one of our other sites, sort of getting ready to start there, and found another team clearing on our property, our in inverted commas. So this one you can give a definite R for. I think that really just, This speaks to the lack of, it's a big challenge, the lack of coordination between organisations. We have similar objectives, we want the same outcomes, but if we are not speaking to each other, sometimes daily, we have this scenario, and it wasn't ill intent, it happened, and lack of good communication coordination. So, I have 5 minutes left.
That includes your questions.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay. All right. Just really going to end off with a few lessons learned here, some of which have already been echoed by previous presentations, but suffice to say, it really is about finding that perfect match. And I think, looking at a previous slide with all the yays and ahs and the highlights and the lowlights, most of those lowlights were out of my control. They were just circumstantial. Someone deciding to sell, a fire, somebody, building an illegal dam. I didn't actually have control over those, but they really have an impact. And this is the nature of the game. Then I think at all costs avoid multiple landowner sites. I mean, hindsight is a perfect science. So, you could have said to me, well, don't touch that property. It's more than one landowner. But I think we had good reason for doing so, because they showed on paper, they showed all the willingness in the world and were saying all the right things. But when it came down to it and having to get agreement between many different landowners to sign on one paper, it proved difficult, and you had different opinions amongst them. And then, landowner associations, definitely pros and cons. Pros for us as the practitioners, because we get to declare more than one property sort of through one process and have one landowner association that will cover multiple properties under one declaration. But in our context here, we found it's been very difficult to convince people of that. We have such different personalities and types of farming, all adjacent to each other. So we have potato farmer next to a lifestyle farmer, next to a retired person, like a weekend farmer, next to a dairy. And they just have such different objectives, such different outlooks, management styles. And now we're hoping that they will all agree and come into one body and collectively sort of manage an area. So it is difficult. And then just to compare our scenario here with the Ekangala WWF project, they really have been able to get large sort of multiple sites in big protected environments and get just hectares under protection. But there you've got very uniform types of landowners. They closely knit, they socialise together, one type of farming, large farms. So it seems to work there. And then just on lessons learned in water balance, we found a very lengthy process, and admittedly this is just, our model is too deep and vertical. We're not able then to get to enough properties because we spend so much time on wrapping up one water balance agreement. So just to show you don't need to read it through, but 11 steps that you have to go through before you can actually get to the clearing work. And 10 and 11, those water balance agreements, they're hectic. For some reason, they're sort of more pages than a stewardship agreement, so have been challenging. And then it's just been interesting that we've battled to find suitable contractors. Didn't expect that to be a challenge, but having people that have the sufficient capacity, while we do have a lot of exited working for water contractors, not all of them having the skills that we were required for our work. And then perhaps, we wondered, is this a good enough incentive for stewardship? And I'm of the opinion it's a sweetener and it's a reward for commitment, but I haven't really seen it being the deal breaker. Like, if we come spend this alien clearing money, you'll go into stewardship, but not quite. I think that's about it. And just to acknowledge once again, yay, CPF. And then also to acknowledge Brent, wherever he is, Brent Corcoran. He was the one who put this proposal together, conceptualized the project, and secured the funding. So thanks, Brent, for all that work.